After the Trojans had fled their burning city, they were led by a prince called Aeneas, a son of Venus. They sailed away in search of new land. However, Hera, after learning that Aeneas would be the reason for the future destruction of Carthage, her favorite city, sabotaged the Trojans in their effort to find new lands. Eventually, after much wandering and struggle, they settled in Italy. His son, Ascanius, or more famously Julius, founded Alba Longa near Mount Alba and became its first king. The city was ruled by Trojan kings for many years. Rhea Silvia, the daughter of Numitor king of Alba Longa, gave birth to two sons, Romulus and Remus, which were claimed to be the sons of god of war Mars by Roman historians. They were condemned to death by Amulus due to being the sons of the daughter Numitor, who was deposed by Amulus. Amulus ordered the twins to be thrown into the Tiber River. Rhea was imprisoned. The twins were put into a basket and thrown into the river. The basket found its way to the banks of the river, where a she-wolf was quenching her thirst. She took them from the bank near where Rome would be established, and suckled them in her cave, which allowed the twins to survive. A shepherd named Faustulus found them under a fig tree. The shepherd then took the twins and raised them as his own children with his wife Laurentia. They grew up to be strong and brave young men. They were hunters and often robbed travelers crossing into their land. One of these raids ended up terribly, with Remus being captured and taken to Alba Longa. Romulus wanted to rescue his brother, and his father Faustulus told him about his noble ancestry and how his grandfather was deposed. Numitor, learning that his grandchildren were still alive, supported Romulus with some men to attack and take Alba Longa. Romulus led the attack, and during the chaos, Amulus was killed, Remus being rescued. The twins put their grandfather back as the king of Alba Longa and went off to build Rome. They gathered their followers to go off where they had been rescued as children. The brothers quickly disagreed where the city should be built. Romulus wanted to establish at the Palatine Hill, and Remus wanted the Aventine Hill. As they both began to build up their settlements, one day Romulus began to set the boundaries to his settlement at the Palatine Hill. The dispute reached a boiling point. Remus continued to disagree with his brother. In an act of provocation, Remus stepped into the boundary of Romulus's border by jumping over the little wall. Romulus attacked Remus in a fit of rage, killing him. The official date of the founding of Rome is April 21st, 753 BC. One of the first things Romulus did was fortify the Palatine Hill. He then divided all the population of the city into three tribes: Ravenus, Titanus, Lucaris. Each had an officially named tribune, and these tribes were further divided into 1,000 soldiers and 100 cavalry. To gain more population, he established an asylum for fugitives, outlaws, thieves, and anyone really. The Senate was also founded, taking 100 men combined out of each of the families. Those who were chosen would be the ancestors of the patricians. Everyone else was plebeian. After this, a problem occurred in which there were a few women in the city. Romulus, because of this, asked other cities to allow intermarriage between their people. They all refused. He then announced a big festival and then invited many people from nearby cities to attend, especially the Sabines. As the festival commenced, Romulus gave a sign to kidnap the Sabine women and took them into their home. The Sabines were outraged and declared war. It is said the war was very brutal. They clashed many times and finally tried to invade Rome, but the defences held them back. The siege commenced. Already the captured Sabine women had clung to their captors and begotten many children. As the siege was happening, a woman by the name Tapiria, who was the daughter of the head of the Capitoline Guard, opened the gates of Rome to the Sabines in exchange for what they wore on their arms, meaning the valuable golden bracelets. She was then crushed by the shields of the Sabines, which they also wore on their arms. She was buried near a rock, henceforth known as the Tapirean Rock. The battle was difficult to predict who would win, but it was sure to be very, very costly. The Sabine women, with their children, would stand in front of the men fighting and beg for the war between them to end. They would rather die than become widows. After this peace was established, Romulus and Titus Tacius, king of the Sabines, united and ruled together. Titus was killed in a riot, leaving Romulus as the sole king. He would then go on to conquer the city of Finidae in order to deal with the raids into Roman lands. Another city by the name of Veii would also raid and would be a very powerful rival for most of early Roman history. Romulus would eventually defeat Veii's army, but failed to take the city itself and loot the countryside instead. After defeating Veii's army, Romulus was in small plains training his army, ensuring that they were all prepared for any future battles, when suddenly a storm blew through the plains, covering Romulus in a thick mist. Upon the clearing of the storm, Romulus was no longer there. This led to people believing that Romulus had ascended to God. Due to this, there was no king for a short period of time until a new one was elected within Rome.